Welcome to Castrol Activ Champions, and the person we are featuring today is an absolute champion. His career has been a little up and down for different reasons, but every time he's in and playing for Australia, he's an absolute champion. We're talking about Steve Smith. The first time you saw Steve Smith, he was a slightly roundish, long hair little bundle who came and bowled leg spin and batted a little bit. In fact, that's how he made his debut, which was an interesting spot. He made his debut against Pakistan in England. Remember, there was a time when England said they'd host Pakistan. It led to all kinds of trouble. They never did that again. But he started his career at number 8 bowling leg breaks. And I'll tell you something, he was a seriously good leg spin bowler. I've asked him that a few times after that, but he's so much in love with the idea of batting, is Steve Smith, that he's quite willing to let that aspect of his game go away. But as a leg spinner, he wasn't going that far. He got the odd game here and there. By the time he got back into the Australian side, 2013 against India in Mohali, just made a handful of games. Got in quite fortuitously, you must admit, because Australian cricket was in all kinds of turmoil. Ponting had gone, Hussey had gone. Those are two giant names in the middle order. So there was literally a whole road to be filled in that middle order. And Steve Smith found a spot opening up for him. And like all great players, he took it with both hands. He made 92 there, and in doing so, just showed how much he was going to enjoy playing against India. He's made 1,429 runs in just 10 test matches, 700s against India. He just seemed to enjoy batting against India. It all started really in that 2014-15 series. You remember it for Virat Kohli's breathtaking batting, but Steve Smith scored a century in every single match. And it was the first coming together of two of the modern giants of test match batting. He then came back to India in 2017 and made that phenomenal century in Pune. The ball was turning square. Remember, Steve O'Keefe won a test match for Australia, and Steve Smith's 109 is still talked about as one of the finest innings played by an overseas batsman in Indian conditions. They needed Steve Smith up there to stand there like a rock amidst all the winds that were buffeting Australian cricket. And you could say with good reason, that he protected Australian cricket and that batting lineup, much like Castrol Activ's Actibonds protect your bike engine, whether running or off. And it wasn't just India. Everywhere Steve Smith went in that period, he was scoring centuries. And you remember the Ashes series of 2017, Australia a little bit uncertain. He smashed 3 centuries, and the first of those is almost part of Australian folklore. What a period it was for Steve Smith. 2014 to 2017, he played 44 tests in that period. He made 5,000 runs, but just as important, he made 21 centuries in 4 years, 17 half centuries. That's 38 50-plus innings in 44 test matches. Just tells you that the word Bradman-esque, which is used so often, genuinely resided with Steve Smith in that period. And you looked at Steve Smith and you said, yes, he is the #1 test batsman in the world. Everyone said, yes, Virat Kohli is probably the best all-round batsman, but #1 test batsman, you really struggle to get past Steve Smith in that period. And the world looked like it was all opening up for Steve Smith. So there we were in 2017 with Steve Smith. The world was his oyster, wasn't it? The world was at his feet. He was scoring runs for fun, and he took the Australian team to South Africa, and we know how that panned out again. South Africa were actually in trouble. Australia were favourites going to that series. They'd started well. Maybe as a leader, he wasn't quite the same person as Steve Smith, the batsman. Sometimes when you're obsessed with the game, and I've seen that with a few people, you're obsessed with your game, sometimes maybe you just let something slip as a leader. Maybe you're not as strong a personality, but what happened has cost Steve Smith dearly, both financially and in terms of his cricket career. And now as he comes back with the IPL and then the World Cup and then the Ashes, one thing is certain, the eyes of the cricket world will be focused on Steve Smith. But irrespective of where he goes from here and what happens thereafter, you have to admit that Steve Smith is one of the champions of our game and a worthy presence on Castrol Activ Champions.